Last episode I mentioned that Berlin and Austria had been divided, but this division sparked isn't the right word, because sparks is used for generating heat, but this is the Cold War, so don't worry about it, So, the Cold War had begun. It was between the capitalistic and democratic West and the communistic East. Both completely different, and both wanted to change the other side's opinions. Now, people say that the Cold War began immediately as World War II ended on the European theatre. But many others say it was the Berlin airlift that started the Cold War. Now, I will go into all of these events in more depth. But what really sparked the Cold War was the birth of communism. So, all the way back when the Soviet Union took control in November of 1917, I know it's called the October Revolution, but calendars and stuff. So, ever since 1917, this Cold War has been going. And it continued with the Great Depression. Now, this wasn't an event that triggered anything during the Cold War. I'm just saying it. You got the Great Depression, the 5-year plans, the famines, the purge. The West didn't like those purges. Then after the war, you had the Berlin airlift, the U-2 incidents, the space race. The space race is a little bit minor, but we don't need to worry about that. The Hungarian uprising, or Budapest uprising. You then had the Star Wars program. Then you had that incident when the Soviet satellites went off when they thought they detected nukes, but they didn't. And then you have Gorbachev. Yeah. Oh, and not to mention, the biggest part of it all was the Berlin Wall. This wall separated West and East Berlin. And you could go across it from time to time. But then, or at least I think then, they actually closed off 2 of the checkpoints, and making it illegal to move from east to west. The only reason they didn't close one of them, supply reasons. I read that somewhere, don't know if it was true or not. Anyway, the Cold War came to an abrupt collapse. Obviously, you had the end of the Warsaw Pact, the end of the Chinese Civil War, which led to the Sino-Soviet split. Then you had the Yugoslav whatever, the wars for independence in Yugoslavia. And then you have Gorbachev saying, goodbye Soviets, hello democracy. And then NATO wins. I'll get into more of all these details when and if I do them. But for now, you just got to realise that this Cold War, it's called the Cold War, so you think, oh, it's going to be fighting and stuff, throwing armies at each other. But all it was a massive staring contest that the West won. Other than that, nothing really about it. So, that is it for the Cold War. I know it's another short episode, but I summarised them, and then I'll go back later on and explain more, and then you can come back to this and understand it. But I will see you next time for a couple of proxy wars that really didn't sit too well with the American public.